From the home offices of Ash and Flo, this is Unbillable Hours, a podcast about professional services marketing. Stick around to listen to our insights, tips, and best practices to improve your firm's marketing and even your career.
Anyways, should we do this, the intermission episode for this season?
It is the Intermezzo because we've had Eric and we've had Jeff, and let's be honest, they came from a really good business perspective more than a marketing perspective. Yes, Jeff is an amazing marketer, but we need these kinds of like business perspective to make sure that the marketers who listen to us and the marketers that we ourselves are definitely aligned. So that's the topic, right?
That's the topic. We thought we'd pause here a little bit. I mean, we have more great guests coming up, but for this episode, we want to just pause and sort of, I don't know, talk to you all aloud while we're thinking about what we've learned and speak a bit about business alignment, or how you could, as a marketing contributor or team or function, I don't know, whatever your role is, how could you work better with the practice, with the business to make your own life easier, right? Actually, we thought it's planning season. So now's the time to maybe go and work closely with the business and make sure you can be a bit more strategic, a bit more well-aligned next year. So,
well, let's think about it like it's more like implementation season right now. Like your planning has been continuing for a while. It depends on the company fiscal, but this is that alignment time.
Yeah,
this
true.
Is business alignment time.
Now's the time to have the discussions. Good point. Yeah. And I mean, I said this elsewhere, or did we say it on some episode? I don't know. These discussions are happening now, right? They are happening.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Get yourself invited
right
and make sure you contribute. So I don't know, Ash, improving business alignment. How would you say should people go about this or think about it?
Yeah, Flo, I think people need to like take things strategically. A lot of times, marketers when they work with their business colleagues are more like order takers rather than someone who actually thinks about what is the big picture and everything. So let's start with the first thing. As a marketer, when you're looking at the year coming ahead, the first thing is to define that vision that you actually have. Like, what are you trying to do? Don't forget, you need to have something in mind before you speak to your stakeholders. You can't just literally go there and be like, hey, what are you guys doing, kind of thing. No, you definitely need to ask these kinds of questions, but you need to have some sort of vision of what you're doing so that and also bear in mind, this vision doesn't have to be something so fixed and concrete, because you need to be malleable, you need to adjust. If you don't, I believe Jeff was the one who said that if you basically go with this kind of stuff without any, I think he mentioned that CMOs come into organizations and they fire the agency, and you're like, that's not an ideal thing. You need to like be malleable. You've got your vision, but that's not set stone. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, because that was an excellent point. So you gotta be careful and respectful of what's there, right? He said that. The other point, which I think Eric made, was that if you just wait for the practice to hand you their business plan so you can execute on it, and Eric said that that was what he used to do. That also doesn't work. So your point is well made. We should prepare our own view on what marketing's job will be in the next planning period, right? And we have that, to your point, not watertight and done and ready, but detailed to some degree, and bring something to the discussion. I mean, because honestly, if you don't do that, you're already on the back foot. You're stepping through the door and asking for, give me your input, please, so I can do my job. It's not a strong position, right? You should be able to lead with something, and then to your point, but you also then absolutely have to listen to the business, right? I think that's what you were implying.
Yeah, Flo, just like you've got here on our notes, that consulting with your business, the business stakeholders to get their expectations, a lot of times, and this is what marketers tend to do, we either just go ahead and ask them a bunch of questions, or we just go there and listen to everything and be like, I've been hearing this cool stuff they're saying. I've been hearing this. It's a conversation that you need to have. You need to listen to them. You need to interject, ask the questions, and you also that are relevant to what they're saying. And then you need to ask your own questions. This comes in from that whole vision thing, because you're new to them. What do you really, if you're new to any human being, any organization, what's the first thing you need to do? trust,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that, yeah. Go
And
ahead, Flo. Yeah.
I was going to say, so trust point is excellent, but besides that, you also need the factual inputs. Like I
Yes.
like, depending on a little bit how your company plays, how the firm plays, firms which are more on the IT consultancy or I don't know the solutioning side of things, they often launch new offerings and stuff, which you shouldn't be surprised by that as a marketer. So ask about like it's the trust part and listening to them and what they think the job will be for the next 12 months is very important. It's maybe the more important part, but also don't forget to have them show you their I don't know roadmap or plan for service launches, all that stuff, like all the actual inputs you need, right? So both things. And again, I think that goes to building trust is asking smart questions about that stuff as well, right?
Yes.
What you guys have in plan, who's this for, all these types of things. So
And yeah, Flo, if I might add,
yeah,
exactly onto what you said. The thing is, don't kill what's already there. Analyze what you have. Don't, like, you've got your ideas. Don't start those things
yeah,
first. Don't kill what's there, because these people have now bought into the idea. They like the idea. If you go in and say everything that you're doing is rubbish, you better have like the most amazing, data
yeah,
set and backup, points to back up with something that coming up. But even so, in doing that, you're on the back foot again, because now you've got to work so much harder to gain their
yeah,
trust. And here's the big thing about, what do you say, professional services firm. They transform, they change so much that they don't really pause to like look at anything. They just like move from one thing to the other, move from one marketing strategy to the other. Just analyze what you have, let it breathe, give it some
yeah,
time, iterate it, modify it, pause.
yeah. So and that's I think that what you're saying there would be the third step, right? And if
Hmm.
we were to sketch out a process, is we define our own vision, then we listen to the expectations, and then we just pause and analyze. And I think if you humor me, I try to make this very practical for a bit. Like
Yeah,
let's
I'm
say
always.
let's say you work for I'm not going to say automotive because I always pick on the automotive guys for examples. I don't know why that is. I actually love them. So let's say you work for the chemicals industry practice and
Ooh.
you're planning their next fiscal for them, and
Yeah.
you might like you should really look at this, like you said, you talked about the business perspective. You should look at this as if it was your business and think about the stuff and say, okay, look, I see where we are in terms of bookings, right? The practice roughly. I see where we are in terms of bench people who we have to do all the work. So my guess is for the next calendar year or next planning period, maybe marketing's job isn't as much to bring in new deals and business. Maybe the job is much more help with recruitment, and maybe there's a component of internal comms helping with retention, that type of stuff. So I formulate that as an hypothesis. That's my vision. I say, hey guys, how would you like to spend more budget on a recruitment effort versus bringing in a new client or new projects efforts? Like stuff. I draw up hypothesis. That will be my step one. And to your point, I ask them what they think. And also to your pausing point, maybe I give this a bit of time, because if there's multiple partners in their practice, they might have different ideas. So going back to your stakeholder management, I need to facilitate a little bit and make sure I hear everybody, and then there's maybe some agreement on their end what they think, what the business perspective is. They might not have that ready, especially if you come prepared. You have yours, but they might not have it. And then to your pausing and analyzing stuff, let's say we agree upon the recruitment angle, just to keep things simple here. Now I can go and look at, what did we do last year? How did we spend the money? On the recruitment components particularly, which ones of those did work well, blah, blah, blah. If I shift now 80%, making this up, of my budgets to recruitment efforts, do I actually have the team, right? It's nice to say, let's do 80% recruiting, but if 9 out of 10 people on my team are, I don't know, performance marketers and webinar experts and whatnot, so like things I don't need in recruitment, that has implications. And I think that's what you mean by pausing and actually making sense of, do the pieces here still fit together,
Yeah,
right?
it's just pause to look at what you're doing before you start something new. That's something that you really need.
Yeah.
It's pausing. Pause lets you like look at what you have, see how you can make it work better, see
Yeah.
what needs to be added and removed, and continue on that.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to create a new thing. Like
No.
sometimes it's like, how many ways can you screw a light bulb kind of moment
Yeah.
where where
I love that.
people
Yeah.
people are just like trying to do the same thing in a different way because they just want to put their stamp on it, and you're just
Yeah.
like, what? No, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love that
that's,
actually.
yeah.
The keep things thing, because you're absolutely right. Just because it feels like New Year's Eve and it feels like, oh, we got a new year, we can do that, no, it's actually, like you said this earlier, it's a matter of pausing now. It's a good time to reflect and stuff. But then what you actually need to be doing is, based on the new objectives you just aligned around, improve what's there. Don't just sort of hard stop, try a bunch of new stuff. Like it's not like flipping a switch, doing everything new, right? It's we
Yeah.
realign around the objectives, and now we see how we can gradually move into the direction that gets us to what we want to have, right?
And you may be new into this role, or you're working with new stakeholders. The key thing here is to earn their trust. And how do you earn this trust? Often is to prioritize quick wins.
Yeah.
What's easily accomplishable? Don't try to like move the world. Just try to do the things that'll make these people happy to earn trust. Trust is a key element in this entire narrative that we're seeing, because that is your working relationship with these people.
Yeah.
Like you can have your frameworks,
Excellent.
like for your internal voice, like you can build a brand pyramid to have that internal alignment of what marketing is. All of that's needed, but what's needed is,
Yeah, you gotta take the people along with you, right? And I think Jeff in his episode had this excellent point about how he has two lists, right? The list of stuff you want to stop doing, a list of things you want to start doing. And I think your point here, Ash, which is excellently made, is don't rush into this, right? Sticking with the chemicals practice, sticking with the chemicals practice example. Let's say we've all decided focus should be on recruitment efforts. But then say there is a partner who they have like a blog series that's also a newsletter, and it's directed towards clients, and they just love that stuff. What you should not do is, oh, we all agreed it's recruitment, so I'm going to stop that or whatever. To your point, right? That's not what you want to do. The quick win here is to say, okay, let's plan how we can continue your program here. Makes them happy. Makes them happy. But then let's also negotiate with them. Maybe there's some wiggle room for you to draw resources out of that. Maybe they don't need 2 posts a month, right? Maybe instead of in 3 months' time 6, maybe they can do 4 or 5 or whatever. So you try to take resources out gradually, but you don't, excuse my English, piss them off by saying everybody said it's recruiting, so we're stopping this now. No. It's not. So it's gradually smoothing out one thing and then into the other. And I think that's very right, Ash, because. And we've all been there, getting overexcited about a new direction, and then we do like as if it's a shift in business strategy, and everything old has to go out, and we do tons of new stuff, and we overcommit on 20 programs we haven't ever done before, and then at the end of it, what happens? Not much. It's much better to say, can we shift 10% from this over here? Would that get us towards our numbers? And then play it that way.
All great points, Flo, and everything exactly how we need to do, because a lot of people want to put their personal stamp on these things, and that's not what you're trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
And that's like you should definitely like make a personal mark, but not as soon as you come in, because that's fine if you just want to leave in 6 months. But I don't think that's much of a career.
Yeah. By the way, can I ask your experience? Did you ever had any success with trying to extend the planning cycle? Because I've tried to do this a couple of times where I met with the business and said, let's do this, let's do the alignment thing. But for this alignment session, let's pretend this is for the 3-year time period, longer term game. And then we still build a plan for the year, but everything that goes in there, we look at through the lens of the 3-year overall thing. So that frees me from the pressure of having to do everything in just 1 year. So that smoothing out of certain things and into other things works better. But I'll be honest, I haven't had that much luck with it. Usually people sort of insist on the 12-month period.
I have a different issue from you, Flo. Usually I don't seem to be able to get out of the planning cycle. I'm always in the planning and iterating cycle where I'm like consistently like, I have a plan. Oh, and I have a set of activities that we've got to go on. And here's our strategic overall plan. I've got to moderate it. I've got it iterated. And I feel like I've finally settled on something. And it's the end of the fiscal. And I now need to continue with the next plan. And I'm like,
which is why you're so smart about not throwing everything out. Yeah. And I think, but I mean, okay, maybe that's even a solution to my problem is just be continuously planning. But I mean, the thing that has to be true is this alignment we talk about and the
Yep.
the clarity around objectives.
Mhm.
I get that you have to be responsive and marketplaces change and stuff, but really some high level things, some guardrails should remain in place for a longer time period.
Mhm.
This is probably where every Harvard Business Review or whatever article writer goes, no, everything goes faster these years and it's digital times, so everything has to blah blah and we have to be agile. Honestly, I think nah. Some of that stuff you should have for a really long time. And can I do this, Ash? You'll be surprised. I'm actually going to quote Jeff Bezos, which I never do, but that guy once said this, and I will find the quote for people put in the show notes. He said everybody always thinks about what will change in the next year, and they build their plans towards that. It's much better to build a business around the principles which will never change. And he said people expecting smooth delivery and low prices, that'll never change. And Amazon is all about that. And I like that a lot. So I think that's maybe a way to think about those guardrails, think about the stuff that will not change in the next 5 years, and have at least alignment around those. Because then you can be like Ash and plan all the time and iterate. But actually, you should be doing that because that's the agile part, right? That's where you find out what doesn't work, you tweak it, next plan, next step, whatever.
The way, yeah, and absolutely, and Flo, great points. I love that quote, even though I'm not a big fan of
Yeah, same here.
the guy myself.
Not a fan, but that made a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, give credit where credit's due. So the way I look at it is like, does this overarching goal that we have, like a strategy that covers everything, then there's below that what you have as a plan for like a fixed time period, and then there's a set of like goals, objectives, and activities on a smaller thing, which is the area you need to be agile. The problem with a lot of marketers, and well, people in general, but a lot of marketers especially, is that people don't really think about the goal, activities, objective, and outcomes kind of thing. It's like everyone's like, I have to get these outcomes and I have these actions. And I'm like, so what's your objective here? What are you trying to do? That's the first question when you do your business alignment that needs to come up. Like often people are just like, I have to get to this. And I'm like, yes, you have to get to this. But what are you trying to do? And as you map and figure out what you're trying to do, then you can figure out what you actually need to get to now versus what you need to get to later. Because if you don't prioritize in that kind of way, if you don't speak to your stakeholders with that kind of vision in mind, you're just making yourself look like an idiot, unfortunately. And they will, well, more than trust, they'll lose respect for you.
Yeah, what I like here about this is what you just said, is speak with your stakeholders, because that's really it. This is an ongoing conversation. It's good to start those discussions now, planning cycle, because that's the time where everybody looks back, looks forward, blah blah blah, and at least pauses a little bit, to your point with the pause. But even this idea of stopping certain things which clearly don't work, don't sort of just break the news to people. It's a conversation to have, because, and now I completely lost what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so this is a conversation you should have, and you should speak to people, because what I've seen often in time is every marketing department ever tries to do less but better, or reduce the scope and the amount of tasks and blah blah. So they try to advise the practice by just declining stuff and having conversations like, maybe you don't need this video because blah blah, you could achieve it some other way. And the advice is right and it's probably done, but because there was no conversation prior to that with that person, they just feel like they've been told no.
Yes.
by a cost center person.
Yes, Flo.
And they just get pissed off, to a certain extent, rightfully so, because you didn't take them along the entire journey. So if you can have this conversation about what is, like what you just said, what are the real objectives, if you can have that alignment early on in the year, and we talk about how it's recruitment, and that should be where the budget goes, and these are the things which work for us in recruitment. Then that same person, 6 months later, when they want you to do a quick video on their new solution, and you tell them, I could do that, but that would mean pulling off these and that resources from the most recent recruitment effort, and we all agreed upon that was what we're going to do this year. That's a different conversation, right? Than just telling them no with extra reasons added.
I love everything that you said there, Flo. And just to talk about that, don't go to your business people, your business stakeholders with no. Go with the art of the possible. Tell them what can be done, and then you will be in a good state.
Love that.
because the problem is a lot of marketers get advice saying that you have to learn to say no because otherwise you'll get overwhelmed. But the truth is, it's not about saying no. It's about telling them, by the way, guys, we've got these things. We don't really have to do that. We will get what you want through this. But if you still aren't getting after we've tried this, then we'll try that. That way they don't feel like they've not been hurt. We feel like we're compromising with them, which is what it is. Yeah.
That's a brilliant takeaway even for myself, because I think you just, that's a cool thing you called out there, is this whole you got to say no more thing. I know where it's coming from, and I agree with the notion of not doing stuff that's scrap. I agree with the notion of less but better. But the thing is, the way things stand today in most consulting firms, you're not the CEO, so you got to earn the no. You got to earn the permission. You can't make these decisions on your own and then explain it to people like you're royalty. I'm not doing this because X, Y, Z. No, you got to work with them, together with them, to get to the mutual agreement that no, this shouldn't be done, which is very different. And I think you explained it beautiful. So the art of the possible. I'm gonna write that down.
It is always about the art of the possible, not the art of the deal, as someone loves.
See,
not you and I.
That's why you're the stakeholder management expert. And I'm just pissing people off by saying no all the time.
No, not really. You actually try and work with the stakeholders a lot, and I've seen that. So
unfortunately, I don't. So good stuff. I think that was fun having an episode without guests once in a while for a change. I hope the listeners enjoyed as well. Do you want to run down the list again, or the quote unquote process we outlined to close this out?
All right. So let's start with what we're trying to achieve here is business alignment. Don't go in without a vision, but even if you have a vision, make sure that it is malleable. Don't just either ask the stakeholders or listen to them. Make it a conversation, two-way, where you're listening to what they say, responding, going with something new that you're coming up with. Then once you've got that, get the expectations right, make with the whole brand pyramid and all of that stuff, and following that, analyze, pause, work on your stakeholder trust, and then figure out how you continue the things, how you iterate with all of that. Let it start, and then don't start anything new before you get all of that. And then it's all about alignment, conversation, and all the other little tidbits that we said. I'm sure I missed something, Flo, but you can add whatever you think.
I think that was pretty well rounded. So I'm trying to find a phrase how we could summarize this. So make up your own mind, have your own plan, and drive towards the direction you would recommend as a professional, but don't be a freaking tank. Yes. Just roll over people.
It's a bridge. Meet in the middle of the bridge.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. No, I think that was good, and I hope it was helpful for people who have to do some planning again, or start implementing what I've planned. I think it's still not too late, right, to have some conversations.
Yeah, it's not late. And we will have our guests again resuming next week and the week after. We've got a lot more in the pipeline, but this is just our reflection episode, just so that, because we had some really amazing guests who had some great things to say. But that's it from me, Flo, if you want to close.
So I'm here. Have a nice weekend, Ash. Everybody else have a nice, week whenever you start listening to this. And that's it for today.
Thanks for listening to Unbillable Hours. If you want more, tune in next week. You know where to find us.